Good evening, I'm Ipensi Michael Tomola. Today we are looking at factorization. So under factorization, we look at removing brackets. How do you remove brackets? Let's take some examples. The first example here says remove the bracket from the questions below. And to remove brackets is not difficult. It's not difficult. So the first question, 3 times x minus y. You can see that x minus y are inside brackets, and x minus y is inside brackets. So we are using 3 to multiply x minus y. And how do we remove the bracket? We use the 3, which is outside the bracket, to multiply x. We use the same 3 to multiply minus y, but the sign will come first before the multiplication. So we write minus, then 3 times y, so that 3 times x will give me 3x, then 3 times minus y will give me minus 3y. And in algebra, when you are using a positive number to multiply a positive number or letter, your result will be positive. But when you are using positive and negative to multiply each other, the result will be negative. So take note of that. The second question, we have 3a plus 8b times 5a. So we can rearrange this one so that we move the 5a to the front. It will now become 5a times 3a plus 8b. Then to remove the bracket, still the same method. Use whatsoever you have outside the bracket to multiply what you have inside. But you are going to use it to multiply each of the terms inside the bracket. So I'm going to use 5a to multiply 3a. So 5 times 3 will give me 15. 8 times a will give me a squared. I will use the same 5a to multiply plus 8b. So that 5 times plus 8 will give me plus 40. Then a times b will give me ab. So that is how to solve, how to remove brackets. So the third one, what if you have a negative number or a negative term? For example, we are using minus 2n to multiply 7y minus 4z. So in this case, it's still the same process or the same method. Use minus 2 to multiply 7y, so that minus 2 times 7, minus 2 is negative, 7 is positive. The result will be negative 14. Then n times y will give me ny. Minus 2 times minus 4z. So minus 2 times minus 4 will give me plus 8, because minus times minus is plus. 4 times 2 times 4 is 8. Then n times z will give me nz. So I believe that is clear. So the summary of what you have done so far is that when you are removing bracket, use whatever you have outside the bracket to multiply the items inside the bracket. Another case you can have, for example, example 2, if I'm given an instruction to remove the bracket, let's say I have 2x into 3 plus 2x
Mr.
minus
Quincy,
5y
Mr. Quincy,
minus 5y. So what will I do? I will use the 2 to multiply 3, and that will give me, I will use the 2x to multiply 3, that will give me 2x times 3, plus I will use the 2x again to multiply 2x, then minus, I will use the 2 again, 2x rather, to multiply 5y. So that 2x times 3 will give me 6x, plus 2 times 2 will give me 4, then x times x will give me x squared, minus 2 times 5 will give me minus 10, x times y will give me xy. So that is how to remove bracket. Now we are looking at another subtopic under factorization, which is common factors. When you are talking about common factors, is what you have done in primary school and GSS1. For example, let's take an example. Example 1. Find the highest common factor, which is something as ACF of 2xy and 6x squared y. Now, if you look at this, how do we find the highest common factor? To solve a question of this nature is very simple. You break 2xy down or express as a product of the prime factor, and that will give you 2 times x times y. Then 6x squared y. If you simplify it or expand it, it will give you, if you break 6 down, that is 2 can go in 6, we have 3. 3 can go in 3, we have 1. So 6 will give us 2 times 3, then x squared will give us x times x, because x times x is x squared, then times y. So the highest common factor, which is the ACF, will be 2 is common, so we write 2. We check if we still have any other number that is common. We have x, then we also have y. So the common factors are 2, x, and y. We now find their product. So the product of 2x and y will give me 2xy. That means the highest common factor is 2xy. Then what is the usefulness of common factor? The highest common factor is important because that is what we need when we are factorizing. When you are factorizing, you factorize out, you bring out the highest common factor. As we continue, we see the application of this. So we can also have another example which we use to illustrate the application of what we have learned in the first example. For example, if we have a question that says we should factorize the following binomial expression. Factorize the following binomial expressions. Binomial expressions are expressions that have only 2 terms. Binomial expressions. So we are going to write the first one. The first one is 9a minus 3b. Then the second one, 3x squared plus 6xy. Then the third one, minus 2xy minus 6. So how do we now factorize this? It's not difficult. It's not difficult. Now, let's see how we can factorize it. Let's see how we can factorize it. The first question says we should factorize 9a minus 3b. To factorize that, you find the ACF of 9a. 9a, if you express as the product of the prime factor, will give you 3 times 3 times a. Then 3b will give you 3 times b. So the highest common factor, the only common factor here is 3. So the highest common factor will still be 3. So what do we now do with the highest common factor? We write the highest common factor out and open a bracket. We have 9a minus 3b. So we now use the highest common factor to divide each of the 10, so that 3 in 9 will give us 3, 3 in 3 will give us 1. So this will now give me 3 into 3a minus 1b is same as b. So that is it. You can see that we have used our knowledge of HCF to factorize. The same thing is applicable to the second one. The second one, at times you may not need to, there are some steps that you have to jump, is allowed because of time. You can jump some steps. For example, in the second example, we have 3x squared plus 6xy. So what do? We check the number. We have 3 here. We have 6 here. We discover that the highest number that can divide 3 without remainder is 3. And we now ask ourselves the question that can the same 3 go in 6? Yes, 3 can go in 6. That means 3 is the highest common factor for the number. Then we check the letters. Do we have a common letter? Yes, we have x squared and x. Then what is the highest letter that can divide, that can go in x squared, that can also go in x? X can go in x squared, but x squared cannot go in x. So we pick x. Then we open a bracket. 3 will divide 3. X will go in x squared, we still have 1x left. Plus 3 will go in 6, we have 2. X will cancel x, then we have y. So that is how to factorize instead of passing through this long method. The third example, we have minus 2xy minus 6. Then how do we factorize it? It's not difficult. Look at it, you see that minus is common. You bring out the minus, which is the common factor. Then, and moreover, it's not only when minus is common. If you are having a negative number at the front, you start with minus as the common sign. Now here we have minus, so we write minus. Then the number, we have 2 here, we have 6 here. 2 can go in 2, 2 can also go in 6. But 6 cannot go in 2. So we pick 2 as the highest common factor for the numbers. Then we check the letter. We have x here, there's no x here. We have y here, there's no y here. So there's no common letter between these two terms. This is a term, this is another term. So the highest common factor here is minus 2. Then we open bracket. Minus 2, we cancel minus 2. We have xy left. Minus, whenever you have minus outside, what you have inside will change. So this minus will change this one because minus divided by minus will give you plus. 6 divided by 2 will give you 3. So that's how to factorize that. Then I would like to introduce another one where we have plus and minus, or minus and plus. For example, if I have minus 24p squared plus 6p, then how do we factorize it? To factorize this is very simple. You know, I said it earlier on that whenever you have minus here, when you are factorizing, you retain the minus. So we have minus, then we now look at the numbers. We have 24 here, we have 24 here. The highest number that can divide 24 without remainder is 24. But the 24 cannot go in 6. Whereas the highest number that can divide 6 without remainder is 6. But 6 can go in 24. That means our highest common factor will be 6. So we have picked the highest common factor for the numbers. Then let's look at the letters. We have p squared here. We have p here. P squared cannot go in p, but p can go in p squared. So we pick p. Then open a bracket. Minus, we cancel minus. 6 we go in 24. We have what? We have 4. P will go in p squared. We have p. So we are going to have 4p, then plus divided by minus. You know here, I say minus divided by minus give me plus. So there are some things I need to understand. Plus divided by plus will give me plus. Minus divided by minus will give me plus. Minus divided by plus will give me minus. Plus divided by minus will give me minus. So here, plus divided by minus will give me minus. 6 we divide 6. P will divide, even 6p with divided by 6p will give me 1. So you can't solve it beyond this. You don't need to remove bracket. One thing I want to understand is that if you remove bracket, we are coming back to the first step. So that means the opposite of removing of bracket is factorization. Also, the opposite of factorization is removing of brackets. So we are going to stop here for now. Although I'm going to give some practice questions